Good morning. So I hope you had your coffee and pastry because now I'm going to fill your brain with technology talk for the next 30 minutes. So yeah, and bear with us with this microphone. So AI, well, first, before we get to AI, I want to talk about my journey to AI. How did I end up standing in front of all of you talking about AI? Well, my journey really started in 1996, believe it or not. I was tasked with writing, I was a little guy, and I was tasked with writing an article called Information Superhighway. I don't know if anyone remembers. That used to be what the internet was called. I don't know how I wrote that article because it was not really an internet for me to reference at that time, but I did. And it really sparked my imagination for this other world, this technology space that, in the 90s, it really wasn't a big part of our lives. So then we ushered in the dot-com era. Some of you may remember that. There's still some technology giants that exist from it. We have eBay, PayPal, Amazon. These were some of the big players in the dot-com space. But the problem with that for me was I was still too young to participate in it, but old enough to understand that something really cool was happening. And I always look back on those days and be like, if only, maybe I could have been Jeff Bezos, or, maybe I could have been PayPal or whatever. But now we come to 2008 and I have really come into my own. In fact, I was able to start participating with the internet in that way in that I started my company. And we are a technology company, and I really feel like I've started to be able to participate in this technology space. And then we get ahead to 2022, and this 2022 is probably when a lot of you started to understand or use AI. That's when ChatGPT really became mass adopted. And then for me, it was quite exciting because, okay, the next gold rush is happening. It's here, AI, it's the thing. And on one hand, I was excited, but on the other hand, I was a little bit frightened by it because how is this going to affect my technology business, right? We do a lot of stuff that's now being enhanced by AI, but at first we're like, are we going to be replaced? I think a lot of us can share that sentiment of, wow, are these robots coming in to take over my job, right? So that brings us to today, and the fact is we use AI in my business every day. I have at least 2 operating on my second screen at all times. And not only did it not ruin my business, but it's actually enhanced the business. And we've grown, in this last year, it was our largest year to date. And we have the fewest number of employees. So sort of the theme today is going to be how to embrace AI to increase your efficiency, how to use it as a tool and not be afraid of what that it's going to replace your job, right? So Darby Digital is the name of my business, and we're a technology company located in Cambridge. We specialize in web development, marketing consulting, and digital marketing in general, as well as AI consulting. Artificial intelligence, show of hands, when do you think AI was born? Who thinks 1950? Raise your hand. Who thinks 1997? Okay, 2008, so it actually is 1950, and I used AI to generate this image as well. Computers used to be quite huge. You may already be aware of that. Some of them took up entire rooms, but it was in 1950 that Alan Turing proposed in his Turing test paper, computing, machinery, and intelligence. That was really the dawn of AI all the way back 75 years ago. And here we are today listening to a talk about how to use that. It's now become mass use. But going through some of those other years, you may remember Deep Blue defeating the world chess champ back in 1997. I think that's when we all started to be like, what is this robot coming to take over our world? And then in 2008, the first generation at that time, it was just called GPT. The chat part wasn't there just yet. And if you don't already know, generative pre-trained transformer is what you're saying every time that you say, I used ChatGPT today. It's quite a technical thing. And then of course in 2022, we saw the mass adoption. In fact, ChatGPT reached 100 million users in the fastest that any website or technology tool has been adopted. So it's quite impressive, and I would imagine that's when most of us started to say, okay, AI is here, and how do I deal with this thing in my life? But what does all this mean for a professional organizer? We're gonna get into that. We're gonna start with some pain points that I've identified, and usage of AI, and also a lot of research just using the old-fashioned Google. And so let's see, show of hands when you see something on here that resonates with you. Client emotional states, we have boundary issues, we have lack of client follow-through, marketing, unrealistic expectations, last-minute cancellations, too much time doing admin tasks, word-of-mouth reliance, a lot of hands, lack of automation, keeping up with new tech, burnout, I would imagine, is quite strong. Pricing challenges and the no centralized system, right? So a lot of tools that you're using, and maybe they're not all talking to each other. So I think that we all know this could probably be the talk of today's discussion point, just talking about the pain points. But what we're going to do, you'll notice that some of them are in purple. Those are the ones that we're going to focus the talk on today. So we'll be addressing these pain points throughout the course of the next 20 minutes or so. So yeah, AI can help with all of this. And so we're gonna walk through a case study that's going to, I'm hoping it'll land with you. It's a client, we didn't have any clients to reference in the professional organizing space, but we do work with some interior designers. And I thought that would be a close, comparable example to share with you today, and some of the work that Jody did for her business by leveraging AI. Now, by the way, she did all this on her own with my consulting. And if you knew Jody, you would say, if Jody can do it, I can do it. So we'll leave it at that. So we're gonna talk about how an interior designer used AI to launch a new service offering, and that's really the big thing here, is for anyone that's looking for ways to expand your business, but not sure about hiring somebody. But Jody was able to offer a new service, attract the ideal client for that particular service type, and streamline her marketing in general all at the same time, going through this very particular program. So the first step was, and you may recognize ChatGPT, it's where we always get started. It's considered the workhorse of AI. It's still the most effective tool. There are so many tools that we're going to talk about. In fact, there's some more tools in the folder on the table in front of you. But we started with ChatGPT to understand the ideal client. So we used the tool to really boil down to who is the target audience, or we call it the customer avatar. If anyone ever has done marketing or advertising, the customer avatar is your ideal person for a service. And you really get down to the specifics. A lot of the specifics come down, in this particular case, how we did it was we took all of her particular case studies, her client feedback, her program, her new program, and we trained up a custom GPT for her. So if you're not aware that you can do that, you can create your own GPT, and it will reference only the information that you train it on. It won't reference the internet. So you can imagine the power of that. You may have heard people say they've cloned themselves. Well, this is how they're doing it. They're creating a GPT that uses their mannerism, their way of expressing through written language, and even sarcasm and sense of humor. The profile that we came up with was professional women aged 40 to 60. Oftentimes they're empty nesters, career-focused homeowners. They're ready to invest in elegant, timeless spaces. They value personalization, sophistication, and function. So the avatar became the foundation of all of the marketing that we did for this particular service offering that she was launching. And you will see through this case study how the importance of starting here is really, I couldn't really stress it more. Otherwise, you're trying to communicate to everybody and therefore nobody at the same time. Once we had the ideal customer in place, we created the offer. So that's always the next step in marketing, is what's your offer? You just want someone to work with you, or specifically work with you in some way. The offer resonates with that particular customer profile, and we're using a tool called Room AI. So that's our second tool that we're talking about so far. And by the way, Room AI, I became aware of it through this project, but also was the first thing that came to mind when I was thinking of speaking with you. I think Room AI could also be a tool that you could leverage in the work that you do. So there's a lot of words on the page. Don't worry, I'm going to kind of go through them here. But the idea is, we call it Room Imagined is the name of the program. And Room AI will generate realistic room redesign visuals in minutes. So she was able to sell this service without actually having to move anything around in someone's home. They were able to see a visual rendering of what it may look like. And included in the service, she was able to create these curated mood boards, the color consultation, layout recommendations, and the big one is D, the visual mock-ups of the redesign space. So, imagine you have an interior designer in your home and you're going through potential ideas. You don't want to start moving the couch around and moving the painting over here and the lamp over there. You could do that all now with AI. Once we had the who do we want to market to and what are we going to be marketing, what's the offer, the next thing is, like, how do we reach them? Like, how do we get in front of these very particular type of people? So social media is the way that we decided to do it. And so another tool here is Canva AI, or just Canva in general. You can use Canva for free. I recommend the little bit of an investment to get the paid version, because then you have access to the AI tools. So we used Canva to design a full week of branded social media posts. And the big thing here is those social media posts are appealing, remember, back to that customer avatar. We're using visuals, we're using the language, we're using just even the white space in the designs to communicate specifically to this persona that we had. Now keep in mind, what's not in here is all of the iterations. Marketing is very iterative. You're going to start in one direction and then you're going to say, okay, what's the result of that? Okay, I'm going to tweak it this way. But what you're seeing here is sort of the end of that process that worked for her. So we're able to show things like before and after of the room transformations, which is what brings to mind the work that you do. The client testimonials behind the scenes of her design process, as well as those Room AI generated renderings. And those posts perform the best because they're different, they're imaginative. So we maintained the polished aesthetic and the value. Okay, so now we have the person, we have the offer, we have how we're going to reach that person, but how are we going to bring them into our funnel? So some of you may have heard of the term marketing funnel before. Well, at the very top of that marketing funnel is called awareness, and that is making people aware of your offer. And in order to do that, it's suggested that you have a place to land them on. So linking them to, say, your website homepage, while that could be a positive action for your business, it's recommended that you have a dedicated landing page to bring those people to. The reason for that is because you've hooked them with your message on social media, you stopped their scrolling, they read your message, and then they're interested to the degree where they're clicking something to get more of what you're saying. So that landing page that they go to is really critical to bringing them a little bit further down your funnel into what's called interest. And we have another tool being mentioned here. It's CARD with 2 R's. It's also free. We built a tailored landing page. We designed the visuals and tones matched the Instagram posts, reinforced the benefits of the Room Imagined service, highlighted the services, solved pain points. Essentially, it was the catch-all for everyone that was interested in this new service. And it probably took 2 hours to create the landing page for this effort. Now, we're on the landing page, and what's going to make that page sticky? You have the language according to the avatar, and you have some interesting visuals. Maybe you have some examples of the work from the offer, but we recommend that you have something of value to offer people. And for a long time, this value has looked like an ebook or a checklist or a calculator. The calculators are very, very popular. We didn't use one for this particular campaign, but if you can come up with a calculator, it can even be a spreadsheet where people can kind of punch in their information and maybe get an idea around cost. I realize that could be a slippery slope. We've not done a checklist, we've not done a calculator in my business for probably the same reasons that you're imagining that might not work for you, but they work. I know some marketing agencies that use them with success. How's this? Okay. So we have another tool here called Claude AI. Claude is, I actually use, this is one of the, I mentioned I've got two at least open at all times on my desk. Claude's the other one with ChatGPT. Claude is sort of the finisher. You know, ChatGPT comes in, does the grinding, does all of the heavy lifting. Claude finesses it. It's the most natural language AI that I've come across, and it's right up there now considered to be one of the big 3 AIs. So with Claude, we had Claude with all of our inputs. Now remember, everything that I've mentioned so far in this case study has been entered into Claude. Claude's aware of this whole program that we're looking to run. And so Claude is also aware of what the angle and the positioning of this ebook should look like to capture the attention or keep the attention of that person that downloaded it. The second one that we did 3 of these total, these ebooks. And by the way, when you're not writing the whole thing yourself, you can really crank these things out. We used to charge a significant amount of money to build these ebooks for our clients and then design them. But now you can do iterative testing. So the second one was this 5 ways to transform your room with confidence. And it got a fair amount of interest where people were downloading it, but they weren't converting beyond that. They weren't booking a consultation. So we landed on a third one that it's actually, in fact, I think she still has it running today. That's generating consultations for her. There's some other added value to having an ebook. It positions you as an authority on your subject. You can use these, you can even print these ebooks and bring them with you to client visits. In fact, because of AI, you could generate an ebook or some sort of material before your meeting with a prospect to demonstrate your authority. It's always good to have a leave behind. Back in 2019, we wrote a book, an actual physical book with paper, if you can believe it. And we never intended to sell this book, but it was a very fancy leave behind with clients. I would bookmark the chapter that I thought would be interesting to them based on our conversation. We won a lot of contracts that way. So think of it this way too. If you have a service business, it's always good to have a product to talk about. If you have a product business, it's always good to have a service to talk about. Okay, so now someone has come, they've gone through that whole thing that I just talked about, and now they're in your database. What's going to happen now? What's the experience that person has with your brand now that they've downloaded this ebook? The next step is to automate that. So for Jody, we collected a ton of emails. People were downloading all 3 of the variations of the ebook. And within the ebook, as part of that process, we set up a 3-email sequence. Now these can go up to 300 sequences. In fact, you're probably in sequences now with brands that you're interested in, where you get these really targeted, like perfect timing emails. Like, how do they do that? Well, they do it through AI and with automations. Like, there's really somebody set that up like months ago, and you're going through it today, and they don't even, right? That's the beauty of automation, is you can set it once, let it run if it's working for you, and your marketing becomes predictable. Your lead generation becomes predictable. And so like the word of mouth is always probably going to be the essence of a lot of where all of us in this room get our business from. But having a level of predictability is super important just to let you sleep at night, right? You know that you've got a machine running out there somewhere that's pulling people through your marketing funnel. So what it looked like for Jody was we had GPT write all the emails based off of this program, right? That's the beauty here. Once you start creating content using GPT, especially a custom GPT, you can refer back to it and you don't have to create the container, that context again. It already knows the context. It knows what you're trying to accomplish. So you just keep finessing it. So in this case, we're like, based on this program, we even put the ebooks in there, write 3 email sequence emails for us. Obviously, you want to keep the human in the loop, right? We like to call human in the loop. You don't want to just trust the AI to produce emails and all this stuff for you and just go to lunch. You want to definitely have someone looking it over. Maybe you want to put some new prompts in there to make it even more fine-tuned in the way that your strategy has unfolded for you. So in those, we provided helpful design tips, client success stories, and the all-important invitation to schedule a consultation. That's the purpose of these emails. We know you're interested. We know you're interested in this particular service. You've told us that you opted in. You said, yes, I want to receive more information from you, including this free ebook. So now it's time for you to sell. And that can be a little scary, but that's what we're all here to do, right? Like, you want to have more work, and you want to have a full calendar through May, as you sit here today, or through June, as you sit here today, right? And this is some of the ways that you can do that. So at this point, where are people in the funnel? They're somewhere between awareness and interest. They're not yet acting. So that's the purpose of these emails, the sequencing, the automation. Now, you could have somebody in step 1, you could have someone in step 5, someone in step 10. They're all sort of happening at the same time, and your machine is running that for you. You're off helping somebody part with a vase that they told you they don't want anymore, but when you tried to take it away, they say, no, actually, no, I do want that. Right? You're off dealing with that type of stuff while this machine's running in the background. Okay, so what were the results? Like, what came from this? In fact, at the time, keep in mind that this program is still running today, and using this as a case study, I'm now back in touch with Jody, and we'll probably do some more refinements to this. However, her email list grew by 42%, and that's not insignificant because she already had thousands of people in her email list, right? So those ebooks generated a ton of new contacts, and really at this point, they're contacts. They're not leads. They're people that said, yeah, I'm willing to part with my email address in order to get this thing, right? But there's still a boundary there. But you have to start someplace. So the 42% was huge. Instagram engagement more than doubled. This stat isn't as impressive because the engagement really wasn't there. So we doubled upon something that was little. But the people that were coming and joining Instagram, following the page, they were a lot more engaged than the people that were there prior. And engagement is the piece that matters. You can have 6,000 contacts in Instagram or followers on Instagram, and if you post something and you see 30 maybe likes, no comments, you've got an engagement problem. The people are not engaged with the content that you're providing, which means that you've maybe skipped that first step. Who are you trying to talk to? Who's your audience? Who's your ideal client? And you don't need to pick just one. You can have multiples of them. She booked 4 new design consultations, and 3 of them were ideal client fits. And this is when we started to know that this is working. And from those 3, she closed 2 deals. This was all within the first, phase of the project. Obviously, she launched a new program, Room Reimagine, and she was able to do that entirely using Room AI. Now, in the folder on the table, there's 2 pages of AI tools that I think is appropriate for your business type. If you can hone in on just one of those tools, it could allow you to create a whole new service offering just on the back of that AI. Delivered high quality visual mock-ups without hiring additional staff. So something we didn't get into too much today is Canva can create all your images for you. Canva AI will actually create images. And so she didn't have to hire us or another firm to do graphic design for her. She was able to do it herself. It's quite satisfying when you're able to do it yourself. Now, the big thing is she's saving about 10 hours, sometimes 8, sometimes 15, but about 10 hours per week by automating this whole thing. She's just got this machine that's running. And now she's freed up to do other things, right? There's always something else on the list to do. So get this kind of automated, use AI to generate a lot of your work, and then therefore you can move on to other things. Okay, so as we start to wrap it up, so as I mentioned, there is a folder on the desk in front of you, or the table in front of you. There's 3 things in it. There's a comprehensive list of AI tools that I feel are ideal for organizers, but use it as a launching point. A lot of what I wanted to do today in this relatively short amount of time is just raise your awareness of how you can be using AI besides having it check your email draft for you, or how to, I don't know, I Googled, I used it last night to come up with how do I fold one of these pocket squares, right? So like there are more advanced ways of using these tools. You notice I don't have a pocket square here. It's because, well, talk to me after. So there is a special offer in there. It's the Odoo plus Darby. That I put in there because we talked a lot about automations today, and that's a tool that we use. And then finally, just a little bit about the work that we do. So in closing, I want you to remember that AI is a tool, not a threat, and use the tool to run a more profitable business and maybe even launch a new service without having to add any overhead. That's Darby, by the way.